work with yourself so you find a good balance. And of course, I've had my times in life when I didn't have a good balance, and then also coming back to like then you learn so much. I never want to be in this position again when I lost sleep. Difficult, but you just have to work with yourself mentally to find a way that works for you, so it doesn't feel that you're giving up things. That's maybe one of my goal in life. Like, I don't want to be on my deathbed like regretting things, and especially not regretting not being a good mother, friend, and wife.
This podcast is brought to you by Pragmatic Solutions, the leading iGaming PAM platform with a modular approach, including many benefits like a fast, secure, and scalable API-based platform, integrated with all major third-party products and services. Make sure you head over to Pragmatic Solutions and join our smart thinking.
This podcast is brought to you by Pragmatic Play, a leading game developer providing player favorites to the most successful brands across the industry. With an award-winning multi-product portfolio of slots, live casino, bingo, virtual sports, and more, Pragmatic Play is powering up new possibilities of play through one single API. Visit pragmaticplay.com and discover your favorite every time.
All right, so we are back here at the podcast with one of the OGs, good and dear friend, Martina Åkerlund, CEO of CallsU. How are you doing today, Martina?
Oh, well, really good. I'm excited to be here. Had an intense week last week with the next conference that is
Yes.
like always full on,
Yep.
like many meetings and some late evenings and two panels,
Yes.
one being CEO hot seat,
Yep.
and then it was wedding for the weekend in London,
my God.
and then another trade show. So
And then back to Malta again.
yes, exactly.
Oh my God,
But
how are
still-
the energy levels?
No, but actually, like, good. I took like Sunday, Monday, just like I think I slept like for 10 hours, and then
Yes.
I was like almost like socially distancing myself,
Yeah.
and just like did my yoga and my walks and so
Yeah.
forth. So after 2 days, then I'm like, well, now I'm ready to go again.
Oh my God, it's some energy mastery that you're doing, Martina, being able to juggle all these things at the same time.
Well, I believe that you're a pro in this as well, so you just have to find a way.
You and me the same, Martina. So I'm really excited to do this episode today, actually, because you haven't been in the industry for that long, but in that short time, you have established yourself as one of the leaders within the industry in a very short time. You know, you come from the banking space, of course, and I'm going to ask you a little bit more on your background in a little bit. But I think in the last few years, you know, having observed people coming and going within the industry, kind of rising and coming into the limelight, you are one of the most impressive people that I've come across in the industry. And I think I would not be the only one who would share that sentiment. And we are always very happy to put you front and center in the conference and events and media that we do, because you always have really interesting things to say and contribute with to the rest of the industry. And you're also one of the few who always are open to share that knowledge with the rest of the industry. So I wanted to bring you on here today, Martina, to just kind of talk about leadership excellence in general, and dig a little bit deeper into your thoughts on leadership styles and how you build your company and so on and so forth. But as a first question here, I wanted to just ask you a bit more on your background. So you come from the banking world, a very traditional conservative industry, and then you're moving over to what seems to be the antidote to that industry, which is a very like new, fast-paced and innovative industry. So can you talk more about the background and then perhaps the transition over to iGaming?
Well, I would say when I started in the banking and finance industry 25 years ago, it was kind of similar to the gaming industry now. It was like an industry that was under development, a bit like immature. The margins were higher, like people were more willing to take risk. There were much like many more companies, but as like the industry matured, like then it's larger companies generally taking over, like being dominant. It got more and more regulated, and like in the end it's almost only about mitigating risk instead of the gaming industry where it's about taking risk. So I think when I started, it was a lot of fun. Then I've done like several different things during these 20 years. So I started in like operations at the stock exchange, like Nasdaq. Became project manager. I did head of regulatory reporting. I did organizational change, and my last position was CMO. So I did many different things within banking and finance, which gave me like a broad understanding of a big company. But after 20 years, I just felt like it was too boring, and it was time for a change. So then I was a CMO. I was reporting to the CEO and the founder of the company or the bank. So I felt like my possibilities to grow within that company was like limited. So I started talking to some good people like around me, and one of them was an investor in Triggy. She knew that they were looking for an external CEO. Then I didn't know anything about like the gaming industry, but what I could see, it's still like it's the same kind of it's based on the same things. It's transactions, it's data, it's user experience, and it's regulated. So the foundation is the same, though it's different products. I've never been able to say no to a challenge. So I thought like, well, this will be fun. My boss at the time, he was like, what, you're going to the gaming industry? What's next? Is it like tobacco and guns? And he was like, you're destroying your CV by doing this.
Just a banker.
Exactly. But I just had like I had a good feeling about it. And I thought like, hey, like my dream was to become a CEO. And I felt like this is a good company. I will be in a good surrounding. So I was like, let's give it a try. And I've never regretted it.
And we met, of course, during the first iGaming Next event in 2021, I believe it was, when we hosted that show. And that was the first kind of conference that you visited and where you got introduced to the iGaming industry. And since then, as we mentioned at the start, you quickly have positioned yourself as an industry leader. You regularly speak at panels at some of the most respected conferences all around the world. Was this a deliberate strategy from your side? And do you have a particular strategy to really put yourself out there and be so visible in front of people?
Yes, it was a deliberate strategy. It started like already being a CMO at the bank that I was working for like 5 years ago. That founder and the CEO, she didn't want to be a public person, so she asked me as a CMO to like be the face of the bank. And that's in the beginning, it's a bit scary and a bit uncomfortable. But then also when I met the founders of Triggy, they wanted like a strong woman, like a strong female leader in this male-dominated industry with like with Triggy, like a product that is up and coming and new thinking. They want the same kind of way or the CEO to be in line with that. So it was a strategy, but like for me, it's always been about being authentic, and also coming from banking and finance, that is a male-dominated industry. It still is, but now coming to an even more male-dominated industry, I want to inspire other women to do the same, to how do you say, take a leap and actually see the possibilities within this industry. I think there are so many cool things going on. Like there are a lot of money, so we can do a lot of like really interesting, fun, techy stuff. It's good tech and it's like really good people. So I don't want the people to listen to then my previous boss who said like, is it guns and tobacco next, and you're ruining your CV. So I want to inspire others to like see the possibilities of this amazing industry.
Awesome. And do you have any tips for, when you came to the first show, you didn't have a network. And so when you enter a new industry like you did, and you want to put yourself out there, well, it can be quite scary, right? Like it's difficult to come as a bit of an alien into really established industries with really established network, and really kind of like break into the different groups that there are. Like, what are your advice to if you want to take that leap and put yourself more out there?
Well, I would like say to start with what you have, like and try to like grow your network with like some good people. Like I had the founders of Triggy that like I really how do you say, I really like their values and trust their opinions, and they've been in this industry for 20 years, so I got good advice. Also, they introduced me to some like really amazing women, so I came to know like Paris and Kelly Ken and Carolina Pelch like initially. And they've been like the sweetest, like taking care of me and like guiding me, and just having just a few couple of good people that you can like once in a while ask for advice. It just helps you so much, and then you just have to go out there and do it. But also I love people. So for me, like networking, that's just, it's a pure joy. And maybe that's why I can also do two conferences in a row, because for
and
me...
a wedding in between.
Exactly. For me, like meeting good people and like hearing their stories and their businesses and so forth, to me, that it gives me a lot of energy. So I really enjoy doing it.
Right. And that's where the authenticity comes in, perhaps as well, that you are out there because you want to be out there, and I think people recognize that for sure as well. I want to ask you, just you used to be the CEO of Triggy, and now obviously you're taking the CEO role of CallsU, and something I've observed, when I kind of grew up in the industry as a young VIP manager at Betsson, for me it always looked like there is like a framework to be a CEO. You kind of have to be raised as a CEO to eventually take that position. But I've come to learn that all CEOs are very different from each other, and there isn't like a set skill set that you need as a CEO. Can you talk about like your strengths and weaknesses as CEO?
Well, here, just like coming back to what you're saying, like there's not like, it's not that typical kind of CEO, and I think also like all strengths can be weaknesses and all weaknesses can be strengths, like dependent on how you work with them and how you use it. But like one of the advantages being a CEO, it's like if you're aware of your weaknesses and strengths, you can surround yourself with people who complement you. So I think that's been like my thing, that I know what I'm good at, but I also know where maybe like my weaknesses are, and then I try to have like good people around me that like we as a team or as a management team, we're really good together.
Yeah, and that's a good point, I think, because it's kind of like when you build an organization, you kind of build the structure in your management team based on your personality as the CEO. So if you are very operational, you need perhaps a management team, like in your bank, the CMO, that was you in that case, who is more out there and visible and so on and so forth. Or on the opposite, if you are someone that is, if you are a CEO that for a company where you do a lot of business development, where the biggest customers, they want to speak to this CEO, they don't want to speak to the business development person, then you need a good framework internally with a CEO, for example, that can take the operations so that you can focus kind of externally. It's something like that, almost like where you need to as you point out, you need to complement your personality in the rest of the management team.
Yeah,
I can
exactly,
imagine
exactly.
that. Yeah, again, you've had 2 different CEO missions so far in Triggy and CallsU, both of which it seems like on the outside are up-and-coming organizations that are really punching upwards. You have some pretty strong competition on from both of those verticals. And so it seems that you are not shy to take big challenges. And I'm curious to know a bit, what does it take mentally, perhaps, to take on these huge challenges where you basically have to climb mountain over mountain over mountain in order to have the chance to succeed as a smaller kind of challenger brand, let's say?
Well, as I think I mentioned before, it's like I've never been able to say no to a challenge with the right circumstances. And just like looking back at my career, I do something for 3 years. Like I'm my best when I get a project, I can build something, I can work with something, I can do the branding, the communication, the team, like set up the structures. But then when it becomes business as usual after maybe 3 years, then I get a bit bored.
Right.
And then,
you need the action. Right?
And yes, exactly.
You need adrenaline.
Yes, and then I'm like, okay, next challenge.
Right.
And then also the how it normally goes is that then I jump into that next challenge, and then you're in your honeymoon for a couple of months, and then you realize that, oh shit, this is really a big challenge. But sometimes, or like somehow you just have to like get over that, like the peak of the mountain, and then things are starting to like move easier. Yep. But yes, I love a challenge, but like if I have the right circumstances, and that is like the thing with both Triggy and CallsU, but like circumstances, but also new challenges. With every role that I have, you learn something, like, okay, this is what I enjoy, this is what I don't want to do this part again. So then you just like, so with every role I try to do it better, or where I'm my best, to give myself the best circumstances to be able to deliver in a good way. So yeah, I've never been able to say no to a challenge. Yeah. But also I think I like to develop myself, and I think business as usual, it gets a bit boring. Yeah, exactly. But of course, once in a while, I'm like, oh Jesus, why do I have to put myself in these situations all the time? But then once you're over that hill, then it's like it feels really good again. Yeah, that's the life of like being an entrepreneur and CEO and so forth. As I guess you know as well. Yeah, I mean, I sometimes I feel that it's like a personality trait. Almost, as you point out too, that you seek yourself to that challenge, and if you find yourself in a space where things are just kind of floating and the company is stabilizing itself, that's when you start looking externally, because you like to be in that heat kind of thing. And it's interesting, because I'm asking as well, because it must also be difficult at times to find yourself in this space. I mean, again, there must be some like extra resiliency there, because especially when you build a company, most of the time you're gonna have these like enormous challenges where it feels like, oh my God, how are we going to like get through this kind of thing? And I don't know if you face those moments and kind of how you deal with them. Well, absolutely. I think that's like when you throw yourself into these challenging situations, of course, like there will be so many obstacles like on the way, and I think like you have to work with yourself, like mentally, like looking back, like obviously I've done this before. You have to inspire yourself, like, okay, I will most most likely find a solution to this now as well. So I think you have to work with yourself mentally, and also like surround yourself with good people. Like once again, like I have many good days, but I also have like not so good days, and then I'm so happy to have like my husband, my kids, and my close friends, and also like maybe unofficial mentors like around me that can like help and support me and like lift me up when I need that support. And also just like looking at people who succeed and the ones that I wouldn't say not succeed, but just like sometimes it's just sticking to it, just like even when it feels really, really tough for maybe just not a day, a week, like it's a couple of months, maybe it's a year, but you just have to stick to it, and not give up even when it's really tough, because I think also when the situations when I have learned most, it's in those challenging situations. It's when not everything is going your way. Like you really need to work with yourself to like stick to it and find a solution and try to stay positive and like assure that you will make it. So just stick to it.
Yeah, I think also, you know, the only guarantee in like building a company from scratch or from little is that you know that you will be in those moments where it feels like this is not going to work, and it's a guarantee. And sticking through it during those times is, I mean, you just have to do it, right? But there's another element to that too, which is like you as the leader, you know, you have a team under you as well who will also walk around with these thoughts as well, like, oh my God, is this gonna work? Is this gonna... Like the employees in the company are always nervous, and there's always frightening things and situations that happen. Do you think about that too as a leader, that like kind of the energy that you send down to the team to be that person who is like a stability in the company kind of thing? Or do you also think that it's okay to show weakness towards your staff below you? It's something that I think a lot about as a leader too, you know, like because we all have our ups and downs, but like we also have a responsibility to kind of be that strength towards your team. I'm curious to hear how you deal with that.
Well, then I have to come back to like being authentic. Like, of course, as a leader, just as you're saying, you have the responsibility to like cheer everyone on. But I think it's also like it's just all of us are only human, and we have our good and bad days. And one day I will need the support, and another day like one of my team members will need the support. And I think also like working together and to be able to feel like, okay, today I'm supporting you, and like then you will say, oh, thank you, like appreciate, like I really needed those words or those like kind things you did or whatever. And I think like building a company in like a challenging situation, like being open and vulnerable, I think that's the best thing you can do. So no, I'm not into that like always positive like leader. More like be open and honest, because then people are able to step in and help you when you need it. And it's really, really nice to be that person that are able to help someone else. So I think authenticity once again.
We are not robots, essentially.
No.
Even the CEOs also have weaknesses and bad days, that's for sure.
Exactly.
Whoever it is.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same thing with our clients as well. Like we have to take care of them in the same way. So I think this is like the world we live in, where all of us are only human, and we're here to try to make each other better and make it work together.
Well said. So you chose to take over CallsU as a company. Why did you choose to move over to CallsU? What was it that attracted you to that company?
Well, I think this is like it's a really interesting space. Like many operators, they are focusing on acquisition and not reactivation, and like not doing so is like almost letting money walk out your door. You're paying so much, and also you're putting so much effort into getting those players. So of course you should try to keep them. And the foundation of my company, like CallsU, I launched now it was 6 or 7 months ago, but the foundation of the company goes back to 2006, but only like growing organically, like within the network with like a couple of like but really successful clients. And then when I met my business partner, we were just like, well, now the time is right. It's a niche of a market where it's been very little competition for a long time, and also it's a good time in the market for where the operators are, like in their cycle at the moment. So we were just like, okay, now let's do this and launch CallsU. So I love the product. Looking at our numbers, we achieved the best ROIs in the industry, and I think it's a good timing. And I also, just as I said before, I'm extremely value driven, and I think that we are better when we are working together, focusing on our strengths. And operators, they should focus on like their core, like their products, their player experience, like developing that in a really good way. Setting up a call center and doing reactivation campaigns, that takes a lot of time and effort. And we've done this for 18 years. Like we do it really, really well. So I think that just as I'm surrounding myself with people that complement me, I think it's a good strategy as a company to like, okay, we do this really well, and then we partner up with companies that complement us in a good way. So we are like even better working together.
Right. So you have a competitor in the space who's very visible in interactive, and I would imagine that when you sit in meetings and calls with potential clients, that you get the question, what's the difference, or what do you do better, and so on. Can you talk to a little bit what are the USPs with CallsU? What is it that make you unique, and what do you do best?
Well, I would say just coming back to the numbers. Now our competitor, they released their ROIs on LinkedIn a couple of months ago, like being super proud of their ROIs, and then we thought like, okay, that would be fun to like compare them. So we compare them to each other, and we're 100% better on like every ROI. And what we hear from customers, our prices are about half. Everyone is working remotely. We have very little overhead. We don't spend much money on marketing, so our prices can be really competitive. So just looking at the numbers, that's our USP.
Yeah, so you would say that as an organization, it seems like you are just very efficient in what you do.
Yes.
Or is there other trade secrets that you can share with the friends?
No, but like we're really efficient in what we do, but also like coming back to the ROI. So my business partner, he's got 2 masters in marketing and 1 PhD in behavioral science, and he loves data. Once again, like working with people that complement each other. I don't like going down in the data, analyzing the details, but that's his passion. While I'm the one who loves to be out here and talk about our products. So we complement each other in a really good way. And just looking like being able to have 100% better ROIs and at half prices for an operator with like turn around a lot of money, that makes a lot of money over time. We are super proud of that.
And what's the main focus for you guys right now? Are you trying to scale the business? Is it increasing the client portfolio? Or are you focusing on the kind of internal efficiency? What's like the next big step that you guys are focusing on now with CallsU?
Well, we have to do everything at the same time. No, but it's like we obviously have the numbers and the product, and I think we have a really good like foundation of our organization. Just as you said, like we're really efficient. set up, we can be live in a new market with a new operator within like 2 to 3 weeks. And being a Swede, knowing the time it takes to hire people, train them, and so forth, I was like really impressed by the efficiency that we are working with. But now it's just like, yes, bringing more clients on board and really building the company. But we have a good foundation in processes. But of course, as you grow, you will need to look at your processes as well. So we need to do not everything at the same time, but many things at the same time, as it is like growing a company.
Perhaps a very basic question, so forgive my ignorance. But obviously, as far as I understand, the reactivation method mostly is outbound calls, right? And can you talk about, so for me personally, when I see a call from a number that I don't know, or even if it's for someone I do know that hasn't told me that they are calling me, I almost get like as time goes on, like it gets more difficult for me to pick up the phone for me in general. Like, can you talk about the reactivation method as outbound calls? How do you find success? What is the keys to really get the players engaged when you call them? Are you looking at other reactivation methods as well? When you look into the future, how do you look at the best ways to reactivate players?
So that was several
many
questions.
Yes,
but I'll try to. I'll try to answer them like step by step. So, so we work with 14 different communication methods, but call is where we get the absolute best results. So just as you're saying, like that's a comment that I hear often, but also I'm the same. Like I see a number and I'm not that likely to actually answer the phone then. But like normally, like so now we do player conversion. So if it's a registered non-depositor, we reach out, and also we do reactivation. And like most operators, they are working with this with like mostly emails. Maybe they also text. That's the usual like activation, reactivation process. But when you add calls, you start doing this in like 3 to 4 different communication methods. And also we try to take all the data and really personalize the message. So when we reach out to a player, it should feel like a VIP treatment. It should never be intrusive. Like we know what times of day to call. So it should never feel intrusive. Like we're reaching out on the behalf of our customers' brands. So we always have that responsibility. So like for us, it should always feel positive. It should feel like a VIP treatment. And then we follow up with other communication methods that like work well on that market. So we can do email, WhatsApp, Signal, Line, like we can do so many different communication methods. So how we set it up is a little bit dependent on the market and the operator. And we set it up like as we've been doing this for 18 years, and as my business partner love to analyze the data, then like we really know how to talk to the player, like to get that positive feeling and like that engagement. We use the data, like when should we call, when is this player engaged, what kind of offer should we send, like we take all data, preferably real time, so the player get a really good player experience. For us, it's also extremely important that we do this in a responsible way. Gambling is entertainment, and we are working with operators that have like a long-term strategy. We want to have like sustainable players, like they have a higher lifetime value. Like we create long-term revenue working together. So whenever there's any indication that the player is like a heated player or whatever, then we're able to react on that as well, and for the operator to take action on that. So it's both like deeply revenue affecting, but it's also having a dialogue with the player where like the operator are able to act upon it and take care of them in the proper way as well.
Brilliant. And what would you say is the ultimate goal with CallsU? As you said, you took over this company. Now, is it a really fast-paced growth that you're looking for? Do you have any like big kind of shiny goal for the company? What's the ultimate goal with?
Well, I would say like working with one of the top 3 operators in like all the 40 GDP like countries. That's like that's the golden goal of CallsU.
Right.
So that's what I'm aiming for right now.
Brilliant. And just going back to leadership again, what would you say is your leadership style, and how do you find success as a leader?
Well, as I started my career like being a generalist. I have never been how do you say? I'm not the
Jack of all trades, master of none, right? You're good at many things.
Yes, like and also an overall general. Like I don't go down into details because I don't have that knowledge, but also I don't really have that interest. Like I want to know how it works like this, and I guess like when I'm like that, I can't micromanage people. I need to trust people, and normally I have a good feeling about is this a person that I can trust or not, and also people I believe good of people, so I give them a lot of freedom, but still like follow up regularly, and I think that people. I want to give them freedom for them to be able to be their best. I know when I'm my best, like I don't want anyone to micromanage me or like steer me too much or put me in a box or whatever. So that's how I try to work with my employees as well.
Right. How do you balance that with giving freedom to your staff, but also if you feel that an employee is perhaps sliding sideways a bit, or you're suspicious that the output is maybe not there. How do you balance that freedom that you give and the trust that you give with also having to make sure that people actually do the work that they need to do?
Well, they're like making sure that everyone knows like their roles and responsibilities. Like this is your role and your responsibilities, and also like follow up with them, like have talks like on a regular basis. Best thing to get people to do things are like ask them to do something and then follow up on it. And often managers maybe miss that. Like setting the roles, responsibilities, goals, what is supposed to be achieved, and talk to each other regularly. It's also like don't be afraid to give feedback. Like so many managers, they think it's scary to give feedback, and I know that feeling as well. But I think that if you're direct and just say what you mean, but you do it in a caring way, it's not the person that is wrong with, it's just maybe the outcome or how it was done or whatever, just trying to be open and honest and just saying what you want and what you expect. That's it's so much easier for that person to then adjust, and also as long as you do it with care and a good heart, it's nothing wrong with the person, just like maybe how it was done or the outcome, and we will learn from this and we will do better next time.
Yeah, my girlfriend gave me a very good advice on how to give advice to others. She said that honesty without empathy is just being cruel. So she said, if you want to give someone critique or feedback, do it with empathy.
Well,
and then
exactly.
people will be more receptive to that. Yeah.
Yes,
I think
yeah.
that was just a brilliant way. So my girlfriend is very good at giving me critique, by the way.
Yeah. but in a caring way.
Yeah. Most of the time. Right? So what would you say, like, still, sometimes you will hire a person that have a great CV, interviews really well, and then you notice perhaps that the delivery is not there. It happens to the best of us, and it's very difficult to go through screening processes knowing 100% what the delivery will be. At what point do you take the decision to let someone go how far do you need to go before that decision is taken? Is that something that you realize very early and you're like, you know what, it's not worth it, we need to let this person go? Or do you take all the steps that you need and prolong the process as long as possible to try to shape that person into the company? How do you think about letting people go?
Well, I would say like it depends on the person and the situation. Some people you just feel instantly like this is not going to work, while others you really want to give them a chance, or like you think that like there will be ways of like doing this and that we can support this person like so he or she like is on the right track and works well. But then I have to say like, also coming back to being a Swede, where it's like one of the countries in the world where it's most difficult to get rid of people. There, like it's a process of like almost a year from you have realized that this person doesn't work for us, then it's like start like discussion with the union or like discussion with that person, and you need to give feedback, you need to follow up, and then you almost have to pay for that person to leave. So I find it I like more the international landscape, like just here, like internationally, you more like you need to do your best, you need to like prove your value, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't have to mean like you're not a good person. It's just that maybe you're not the right person for that company, and then I think it's easier for everyone that you can end it so much easier, and it also gives it much more, how to say, turnaround on the employee market. So then it's like, even though you're let go, okay, you will most likely find another job kind of quickly. While in Sweden, it's almost like you don't almost dare to employ people, because then if it goes wrong, it's so difficult getting rid of them. So I don't think like it's good to protect people and make people feel safe, but also as a company and also as individuals, we need to be able to build good teams. And I think also individuals, they feel so much better when they feel that they are in the right settings where they can be their best. So I like this more flexible international landscape.
Yeah.
And I think it's good for everyone involved.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a commitment in Sweden. In US is similar now, where there's so much lawsuits happening left, right, and center. It's very, very difficult as an employer to take that decision. There's so much green in that, and it's such a big commitment when someone comes into the organization, because it's not only about the salary the financial commitment. It's really that one person coming into the organization that isn't the right fit can really impact the entire organization. You know, it's like one bad apple can really impact the rest of the organization.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any principles that you follow when thinking about how to build a successful company? Are there any principles that you feel that successful companies have in common, or any principles that you just kind of have in the back of your mind as you're building a company?
Well, like the foundation is like having a good product, like a good product always, or almost like markets itself. Not so good products, you have to spend a lot of money on marketing otherwise, but like a good product. And then I try to set like goals for the company. So this is what we're going to achieve, and then build a team on like how do we achieve those goals, and I try to not make it too or too detailed. Like I generally I set a strategy for like the upcoming year, but you know that like and you know that things will happen. So I try to not spend too much time on like planning budgets, those kind of things, because you know that it will change anyway. So I'm trying to set like overall targets, overall this is what like how we should do it, but still it gives you your goals, and the team, like everyone knows like where we are going, but still the flexibility to adjust when things happen, because it will.
Yeah. recently we were in the same panel at Nextio last week in the CEO hot seats.
Yeah.
And it's a great panel because Lasse and he asked very difficult questions in that panel, not the standard CEO panel that you see at other conferences. And I got asked the question, what sacrifices you have to make in order to build a company. And I wanted to pass the ball over to you as well, Martina. You know, as a kind of high-octane CEO, you mentioned, you know, you have one conference last week, one conference this week. It's a lot of pressure being a CEO, and a lot of energy needs to go into that position. What sacrifices, in your opinion, do you need to make when you are a CEO trying to build a company with high pressure both up and down?
Well, for me, it's I have to say that it's like I don't think that I've had to make sacrifices, but you have to find a way to make it work. Like still, I was a fairly young mom. My daughter now, she is 17, and my son is 13. So my kids are. They're kind of independent right now. Of course, I spoke to them just yesterday, and they're like, "Oh, Mom, when are you coming home?" And now I'm also feeling like after 10 days that, oh, how I miss them. But still, now they're big enough, so I know that they will manage. But also, like my husband is amazing. I think like one of the things, especially being a woman and wanting a career, like the one choice that will affect you the most, that's your choice of partner. My husband's got his own business that he's been building, like during our 23 years together. Oh. We've been married 20 years this November. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That feels like an achievement as well.
Yes. Well done.
Stick to it.
Consistency. Yes.
Yes, exactly. But like for us, it's always been natural to help each other out. Like the career of both of us has been as important. And also it's not about, like, how do you say, like the 50-50, like I do laundry today, you do it tomorrow, like the kids were sick today, then I do next day. It's not that like how to say, we don't have to like share everything 50-50. It's more a give and take. And like right now my work is maybe really intense while he's in a more a calmer situation with his work. So like somehow we've always been able to like balance and help each other. So like before I take on like a new challenge, of course I have to check with him, like are we ready to do this, because we need a commitment from both of us. Because then he will need to like step up for a time, and like other times, like when I my first kid, I was on maternity leave for 2 years. My second kid, like 1 year, like, so I really took time off to be a mother. And of course then I took a little bit of break. Now it was in between jobs, so I was able to take that break from my career, so while then he could like focus on his career and his business. So for me, it's I don't think I've done that many sacrifices. I think like we as a team, we do this like really well together, and also like we got help. Like that's always also like an advice, like take help, pay someone to do clean and do the laundry, because that's not what my kids are going to remember. Like so when I'm off, then I try to really be off. But also like having a career, I think you have to find a way to balance it all, both being a parent and a CEO. There are always 100 things that you can do better, that's on your to-do list, but you just have to find a way to feel that like, okay, I'm doing as best as I can, and that's actually good enough. I can't like put a lot of energy on the things that I might be able to do better, because that's not positive for me, and then I'm not my best in neither at my workplace or at home. So I think like put yourself in like try to put yourself in like a good position, and also like work with yourself so you find a good balance. And of course I've had my times in life when I didn't have a good balance, and then also coming back to like, then you learn so much. I never want to be in this position again, when I lost sleep, or I don't want to be in that position again. And like, then just have to find ways that to put yourself in the positions like where when that is not the case, and you have to be able to let it go a bit, even though you're really not. So difficult, but you just have to work with yourself mentally to find a way that works for you, so it doesn't feel that you're giving up things, because that's maybe one of the, or my goal in life. Like, I don't want to be on my deathbed like regretting things, and especially not regretting not being a good mother, friend, and wife. So that's always my priority, even though I focus on my career as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to approach a career, to have those priorities straight, because at the end of the day, there's only so long you can burn the candles from both ends. And as you mentioned, the to-do list is endless. And so at the end of the day, you always have another task that you can do that will have a good impact on the company. And so when you have that pressure on you all the time to deliver, it's easy to succumb to the to-do list, and to have that feeling that, okay, if I just do like another task or another task or another task, that you will accelerate your position. But that only works for so long. And if you have that priority of like, you want to be a good partner or a good parent, a good friend, then I think it becomes easier to understand where the limits are with work as well. Because at the end of the day, if your number one priority is work, then everything else can easily fall away, right? And that's not going to be beneficial for your career either in the long term, because again, you can only do that for so long. So I think that's a good advice. And also, you mentioned kind of support from your partner, and like that's the most important choice that you can do, even for your career. If you want to see it in that light, because you can easily choose a partner that maybe doesn't speak the same language as you when it comes to this high pressure and high octane career that you have. And you can easily slide apart from each other just because you don't understand each other when it comes to kind of the energy output, and the instability, and the months are very different, the weeks are very different from each other. It's hard to fall into routine kind of thing. And some people are very routine driven, and you probably are not gonna match with a person like that, I would imagine. Whereas if you are with someone like in your case, who is also making this similar career as you, I think you are in a much better position to really feed off from each other. And so if someone is going through a difficult period, the partner can then help you a lot more, and then vice versa. So there's like a good balance there between the two, I think.
Yeah, that is totally true. And just being able to come home, and like, I don't even have to tell him that I'm not my best today. He knows.
Yeah.
And then he also knows like how to support me in those situations. And it's just the most amazing support that you can ever have.
For sure. I have two more questions for Martina today before I let you go. First and foremost, I want to go back to your conference routines. So you are constantly visible at conferences around the world. And I'm sure you have picked up a lot of tips and tricks along the way for how to get the most out of events in general. So I look at it as like there are some different type of conferences. Sometimes you are stuck in like 15-minute meetings for the duration of the entire conference. It's very, very quick. Bam, 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 bam. Meet as many people as possible. Whereas other events are much more focused on, you are more relaxed, you can get to know people, so on and so forth. What is your strategy in general for events? Like, how do you get the most out of conferences, and what type of events do you get the most out of?
Well, now you're a conference pro. I've done this for since the pandemic, just as you said, so like 3 years or something, and so I feel that I'm still learning. That some conferences are really good from like one perspective, while others are really good from another perspective. What I've done, like started working with CallsU, is that like I really set like a plan and also like goals for attending that conference. Like these are the people that are like I really want to speak to. This is what I want to achieve. Like this is how I structure my days. So for every conference, I try to get the most out of it by like being clear on what I want to achieve. So I plan before. I just as I mentioned previously, I have flexibility in that plan. But if I have a good like initial plan, then it's normally easy to do that. And then I go back and reflect upon it afterwards. I'm trying to learn these conferences as well, what conferences are good for what, and when do we bring the team, when is it only me, or like when is it the product guys or whatever. So yeah, just as you're saying, different conferences you achieve different things.
Last question for you today, Martina.
Yeah.
It's a recurring question that we always ask in the podcast, but where do you see CallsU in the next 3 years?
Well, I think we touched upon it before, but that's like working with one of the top 3 in like the 40 highest GDPs in the world. That's like that's my goal, and also we're coming as just as you mentioned, like there's one company that's been like really dominant in this space, and I want it to be as natural for everyone that know our competitor, that they also know us, what we deliver. So if you're looking for that kind of service, you should always ask both. But there are others as well that like do this in different kind of ways. But I want to be in the natural thought process if you're thinking about retention. And I also want to affect impact operators to see how deeply revenue affecting it is, focusing on these questions.
Brilliant, Martina. Well, when we follow up in 3 years' time, it'll be interesting to bring this question up. I'm sure
yes.
that you're putting yourself in a position to definitely succeed with your goals. So thank you so much again, Martina. It's been a pleasure to have you on here today.
Oh, thank you, Pierre, for inviting me. It was a pleasure to come to this cool studio and talk to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.